Along the way with GMS, the high school dropout that became the teacher. Whoa, episode 5. Let's get it. Welcome back. This is Along the Way with GMS. Glad to have you all with us today. Just getting my notes together. Welcome to the Along the Way with GMS podcast, where you ride along with me, an independent hip-hop artist, as I release my debut solo multimedia project on multiple platforms, from vinyl to MP3 to NFT, explaining the process, what's going on behind the scenes, and talk about, the next single, video, or NFT drop. If you're joining us for the first time, please wipe your feet on the welcome mat by swiping that thumbs up button. Smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Besides that, make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're hearing this on. Hopefully you have a good time today and may even learn something new along the way. Today I'm going to break down one of the most controversial, thought-provoking, and hopefully impactful lyrics from my song Teacher, featuring Bamboo. The line where I say, "I'm the high school dropout that became the teacher." Whoa. That line has garnered a lot of attention, especially amongst my students, but also amongst my peers in the teaching profession. A lot of them never knew that I dropped out of high school. And also some of my hip hop peers didn't know that I was a teacher. And then that's part of the reason for dropping the single Teacher, to get it how I live. And others knew that I was a teacher, but didn't know that I dropped out of high school. So it's a lot of stuff being revealed with this project, starting with the song Teacher. So let's listen to the clip, and I'll break it down on Along the Way GMS episode 5. Let me just pull it up. You can do this because it's on my channel. I'm actually going to play it right off of the YouTube channel. So just give me a second to pull it up. And for those of you wondering, where can you see the video or hear the record? The song is out on Spotify. It's on Tidal. It's on Amazon Music, Apple Music, formerly iTunes. What else? Bandcamp. You can download a pre-order of the whole project, Along the Way 777, on my Bandcamp page, which is gmsmcmi.bandcamp.com. But all those other places, you can just search for it, and about 100 other online platforms that I'm not even familiar with. Those are the top ones that I know it's on. But here's the music video. I'm going to pull it up on the MCMI Report channel and do a quick screen share. After we listen to the record, I'm going to play it. I'm going to pause right at the moment where that lyric comes in. Share screen. I'm using StreamYard, and today I'm doing an experiment. I am sharing on my allow StreamYard to share your screen. Yes, GMS teacher. Yes, thank you. Preferences. I'm sharing. I'm broadcasting using the Wi-Fi from my phone hotspot, because I was having trouble with Spectrum, and then I recently got Fios to see if that would clear up the problem, but I'm not sure if it has yet, and I think I still may be getting some freezing. So let me know in the comments if you're getting any freezing down there while I'm pulling up the video, if there's any video glitches or anything like that. All right, let's see. Browser can. Okay, they're not. It's not letting me share my screen right now. Okay. Give me a second. This is how we do it. You get to watch the struggles and the trials and tribulations as I put out this project. And right now, the struggle is sharing my screen during the podcast. Let's try one more time. Share screen. Again, I'm using StreamYard, and it's not working that well right now. Let's see. Let's do entire screen and see what happens. Okay, allow. It's not allowing me. All right. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm going to play the audio and let you guys hear it through the microphone. Let's see if that works. Actually, I'm going to play it from my phone. I saw another YouTuber do this the other day. He wanted to play something he did like that. And it's really not important to see the full video right now. But I do want to talk about this part of my lyric that says, I'm the high school dropout that became the teacher. So just pull it up right now. See my report. The volume up. All right, check it out.
You know, say it's another collaboration. Yeah, but I don't know, say it's Bambo and Jail. All my life I've been a teacher. But I come to play around. Yo! My whole family is teachers. We don't have time for them little
Please, you can hear it. Today's lesson, I'm going to rap along with it. Up on the sea, spread the plague, that's the click. A few big battles got us started real quick. I represent PK, but I am a New Yorker. Many people tell me mumble rap is like torture to listen. See, I am just a man on a mission to infiltrate the system, give the fans what they miss. Man, listen, precision is just one of my features. I'm the high school dropout that became the teacher. Whoa. So that's the spot that we're talking about today. And first of all, let me start by saying there are many, many reasons why some people drop out of school. It could be for social reasons, disillusionment with the education process, needing to start working full-time, maybe needing to stay home, support a child, or stay home and support a sick or elderly family member. The stigma associated with dropping out of school is that you're stupid, you're dumb, you couldn't hack it, so you dropped out. But that's not always the case. If you think about people that struggle in school due to different abilities, they can get extra services. They have remedial reading. We have speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Moderation is to help if you have ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and a host of other learning disabilities, even mental disorders. People have Down syndrome, varying levels of autism, they all can graduate. So if you think about it, anyone who's not able to finish school due to any challenges, either academic or social emotional struggles, they could finish school if given the right supports. So therefore, it really isn't necessarily that person's fault. So we didn't make ourselves, and we're a product of genetics and the environment. Now, there are some people who will drop out because they don't like school. Maybe they make a conscious decision just not to want to do their work, or they don't want to try to learn, but that's a personal decision in themselves, not necessarily based on their intelligence. Many super successful and intelligent people have dropped out of school at some point in their lives. So it shouldn't be assumed that because someone drops out that they're dumb. That being said, let's discuss why I dropped out. I'm going to take you back to middle school. I went to middle school, junior high school 51, Park Slope. I was doing quite well in school. Back then, you could graduate from 8th grade and then go to high school for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Or you could do 8th grade in your junior high school and then graduate. Do 9th grade in your junior high school, then graduate and go to high school starting in the 10th grade. So I wanted to go to high school for 9th grade. So in my 7th and 8th grade years, I did pretty well, had good grades. I aced all the citywide tests and everything. So I applied for Midwood and Edward R. Murrow. I didn't get into Midwood, but I did get accepted into Murrow. However, at the time, my mom had an idea to send me to Berkeley Carroll school, in a private school in Park Slope in the neighborhood. Now, we couldn't really afford it. We did not have money for private school, but she was so determined. My mom, she scraped up enough tuition money for 1 quarter, and we had an agreement with the school where we would sort of have a layaway plan. They didn't have layaway when it wasn't called that, but basically she convinced them to let her pay in installments. So first she put up for the first quarter 1/4 of the year's tuition. And then she said, every couple of months, I'll give you the rest of the money. I don't know if that would have worked out, if she would have been able to keep paying over the time. But that was her idea. She really wanted me to go to private school. I don't know why. I guess she felt education was better. Maybe she saw me struggling a little bit, at the end of 8th grade, and she thought it would be better if I went to a private school. Regardless, I went to Berkeley Carroll, and I didn't really like the experience. Not to knock the school. That was 25, 35. That was a long time ago, right? Many, many years ago. And but at the time, I just felt like I didn't fit in socially. I also wasn't used to the teaching style. I was used to the way my middle school, 51, did things. And, this was Berkeley Carroll. Every school has a different school culture. So when I went there, I just didn't feel like I was able to succeed. It was very structured, less personalized. All the teachers knew most of the kids since kindergarten, first grade, because it's basically a pre-K through 12th grade school. So some students like myself, we transfer in the middle. But like I said, the teachers knew a lot of the students already, and also all the kids had made friends. And here I come in like this outsider, basically. So after about 2 months, I was doing horribly. I hated the school. That's not why I dropped out, though. This is just the preamble to that. I hated the school, and I couldn't transfer to Murrow because I never accepted placement at Murrow, right? I turned that down and went to the private school. So at that point, I pleaded with my parents to let me return to 51. Let me go back to middle school, to junior high school. I'll do 9th grade there, where I know everyone, have all my friends, all the teachers know me. That's my community, right? 51. So I'll do 9th grade there. I'll apply again for high school next year. No big deal, right? But my old school, 51, was happy to take me back. And I went and did 9th grade there. Had a great time, super senior and all that. Did pretty well. I'm in chorus, band, theater. I was on the tech squad, won some trophies and medals in gym. My academics were okay, were pretty good. I would say I had about a B+ average that year. However, at the end of that year or middle of the year, whenever you apply for high school again, I didn't get into the schools that I applied for this time. So at that time, you could only list 2 choices. Right now, kids are lucky. I think you can put up to 10 choices or something like that. Let me know in the comments if it's changed in the last couple of years. But you can put more than 2 choices. You number them, order of preference, and then you let know which of your choices matched up with them accepting you into the school, right? But back then, you only picked 2. I didn't get into those schools, so I had to go to my zone school. The zone school was basically, your local school that whoever was in the neighborhood and lived within those boundaries and didn't get into any other school somewhere else would just go there. So my zone school was John Jay High School, Park Slope on 7th Avenue. Some of you know it. Now, if you grew up in Brooklyn in the last 30 to 50 years, you know the reputation of the school. It was one of the lowest ranked high schools in the borough, nicknamed Jungle J, which at the time I felt was a racist term since it was a majority Black school. But an older Brooklyn resident told me that they used to go there, 20 years ago, and it was majority Italian population. It was still considered a bad school, and it was still called Jungle J, and it was mostly Italians at the time. I don't know if that's true. Let me know in the comments if you're older and you know about the neighborhood from back then. But whoever was Italian going to the school, this person told me, they were kids that couldn't get into their zone school. They were kind of the rough kids in the neighborhood, and they went to John Jay, and there was a lot of fighting, a lot of, issues with the school and the neighborhood, and they used to call it Jungle J, supposedly. Let me know. But I do know that a lot of the currently so-called Black neighborhoods, which are now, of course, going through transition, but neighborhoods that were traditionally Black neighborhoods over the years that I grew up, Fort Greene, Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, East New York. I know that if you go back farther enough to my parents and maybe my grandparents' ages, those were, some of them were Italian neighborhoods, some of them were Jewish neighborhoods, even Harlem. And then there was a switch, right? So maybe the area around Park Slope was more Italian back then than, the mix that it was when I grew up, which was basically white, black, Latino, Asian. It was kind of everything when I went there. But anyway, it's something that might be true. So let me know in the comments. But back to the school. I wasn't thrilled with going to J, but I went, and I found out that one thing I found out about high school that a lot of kids find out, and now I tell my students this about all the time. There's less structure. You're not walked to your classes or even watched during the day. You go to your classes or you don't. It's on you. If you cut, you just probably end up failing. Nobody's looking to get you in trouble. Now, I was talking to my wife about this. She had a different high school experience. She's my age too. She said when she went to Midwood, she said, no, it was super strict. She got in big trouble one time for the smallest thing, and they would track down people for cutting. But in J, it was no big deal. You just cut. No one's going to call your house. Nobody's going to complain. You just get marked cutting or absent, or you have a missing, and if you fail, you fail. There's going to be a midterm, and then there's going to be a final, and you're either going to pass it or you're not. If you weren't in class, you can't learn this stuff. It was very hands-off. So, in 10th grade, I coasted for a while. I was able to pass it out doing much work, just by paying attention in class, kind of hyper-focused on what the teacher was presenting. I read the materials, pretty good reader. I liked reading, but I didn't like to do a lot of homework. Instead, I would play basketball 5 to 7 hours a day after school every day. I joined the JV basketball team, and that's another story for another episode. But, I was hoping to play varsity when I get to 11th or 12th grade. But, of course, I dropped out, so that never happened. Who knows if I would have made the varsity team or been good enough. But, I had that goal at the time. And like I said, the school was very weak in discipline. Kids could cut class, roam the halls. They would smoke in the bathroom. Sometimes would go and start fights with kids from another class. There were fights every day. Kids brought weapons to school. It was crazy. Security was lax. They had security guards, but they were really chill with the students. So they let students get away with anything. Now, I didn't smoke, but some of my friends did. And they told me that they would give weed to the security guards and smoke with them in the hallway and the stairwells. I kid you not. Let me know if anyone listening is from Park Slope or went to John Jay back in the day. Maybe some of my alumni are watching right now. Leave me a message in the comments. Now, I didn't get into fights in high school. Well, I wasn't into that. I didn't smoke or anything like that. What I like to do is leave school and go get something to eat in the middle of the day. I would leave around 10:30 a.m., go to the bagel spot on the corner, get a bagel and cream cheese, a coffee or a soda, something not healthy, and then just meander back to school an hour later and go to my next class. I would cut the class I don't like, and I would just go to my next class. Now, that wasn't allowed. They had alarms on the doors and safety officers at the front desk and everything, just like any school. But I would cut. I was a people person. So what happened is I would become friends with the security people, especially the sergeant. There was this woman, I'm not going to say her name. I don't want to blow her up, that she was letting me cut. But she was the head of security, and, she sat at the front desk. And I would go to my first class, maybe English, and then I would, let's say, not want to go to math, right? So I would want to cut math. So I'd go to English, and when the bell rang in transition, I would just walk out. I would go right past the security desk, say hi to the head safety agent. She'd give me $5 and ask me to get her a bagel and coffee from the store. I go out, get my food, come back later, give her food, and go to my next class, probably PE or band or something like that, something that I enjoyed. I did do well in certain classes in high school. I liked French. I liked reading and writing, so I always liked my English teachers. And social studies, it was depending on whether the teacher was interesting to me or not. Math, I didn't really like math. It had nothing to do with the teacher. I just didn't. It's funny because now, I'm a number file. I love math. I watch YouTube videos about complex math problems, but and I studied it in college, of course, to get my teaching license. But in high school, I hated math, so I would dip out, right? So my grades were like 100 in band, 98 in English, 86 in French, 55 in math, total fail, 65 in history, right? And maybe 100 in phys ed, right? So school wasn't all bad. I made friends. I had some fun. I played basketball. I went on trips. I was in this leadership class. Shout out to Miss Thomas. That was really fun and a great development. They had this program. They took students and they put them in leadership class. It was an elective. But academically, I was doing worse and worse. Well, the beginning of my 11th grade year, my mom, again, sees now that I'm struggling in high school, in the public school, right? Didn't work out in the private school. I went back to middle school. Then I didn't get into my chosen schools. I go to my zone school, and now I'm not really doing that well. So she came up with a plan. She gets a job in a private school in another state, Oregon. She came home and said, I got this job. We're going to move to Oregon. You get to go to the school for free because I work at the school. That's a perk, right? At that school. So she was going to be the school secretary, and she was going to sell her co-op apartment in Brooklyn, and we were going to move to Oregon. What effect did that have on me? Well, I felt we're going to move any day now. So I'm going to a new state in a country setting, a boarding school, where you can't really mess up. They supervise you 24/7. Totally different from, my John Jay experience. I was going to live at the school, and my mom was going to work there. So like she's going to be on top of me every day. So I felt that it wasn't really that important this last semester, that of grades. So I started cutting more. I started hanging out with my friends. I started playing basketball, cutting during the day. I would leave my house, walk towards the school, cut around, stash my backpack somewhere, have my basketball, and go play basketball all day. I would just avoid truant officers, right? So, and at the same time, this is the time I was developing as an MC, as a hip hop artist. At night, I was in the streets with my crew having rap ciphers, battling other MCs, first in Brooklyn, and eventually we ventured into Manhattan. All this was going on at the same time as I'm doing horribly in school. I'm making demos with my best friend, Keith Wildchild Middleton. Shout outs to him. Trying to get a record deal. I'm failing half of my classes. Others I'm doing well in because I just enjoy those classes. It was like, if I enjoy the class, I'll learn the stuff. But I really didn't care about my grades because I felt like this is not going to travel with me. I was told that because I'm going to a private school, it's not like when you transfer from one DOE school to another, your grades and records are going to go with you. Not when you leave the system completely. I'll be in another state. So, I basically was felt I wasn't going to be held accountable, for any of that. And I was having some behavior issues around the same time. Besides not going to school, not doing my homework, I wasn't coming home on time. My folks were getting really mad at me. I would blow off dinner. I would show up, 10:30 at night, midnight. I was in the streets with my friends, a lot of times I wasn't doing anything too terrible, playing basketball, hanging out. Sometimes we got into some shenanigans, some stuff that I'll save that for another podcast. I know you're like, tell us, G, tell us. That's not the issue today. Today's episode is about how the high school dropout became the teacher and why I dropped out of school, basically. So you're starting to get enough of the backstory that I can kind of go into it. But just to paint the picture a little more, I would be hanging out in the neighborhood late at night, and my father he'd get upset. Where's Graham? He would leave the house and he would walk around looking for me. And a lot of times I was within 5 blocks of the house on someone's stoop. And it's embarrassing when you're on the stoop with your friends and you're being bad and you're staying out late, when you're like 14, 15, and your dad shows up and makes you come home, like you're sitting there with all your friends and then you look up the block, you're like, oh no, it's my dad. But shout out to my dad. Thanks, Pop. That's what you need in the house. You need someone who will go out and find you and make sure that you don't fall into the street life and it will keep you out of trouble. So thankfully I had that support in my household. But at some point, it occurred to me, excuse me, a little sniffly today. It occurred to me that why am I going to school? I'm not learning anything. In some cases, it's my fault. It's because I'm not applying myself. I'm cutting. I'm not doing the work. In other cases, it's because the school wasn't that great. They weren't really teaching me much in some classes. I talk more about this in my B-Box radio interview, so go check that out if you want to hear the straw that broke the camel's back that made me finally say I'm going to drop out of school in more detail. But I'll give you a little bit here. It had to do with this math teacher and a math textbook. I was like, this is it? This is education? Nah, I'm out. This is a waste of time. But getting back to the story with my mom, before we get into that, going to the Oregon school, this was about 1987. Shout out to Skynet who gave me this nice cup, pushing for a decentralized internet and a free future. Not a sponsored video at all, but you give me cups, I shout you out. Give me some swag. Give me a hoodie or something with your company on it. Anyway, 1987. Now, in order to move to Oregon and for my mom to take the job she was offered, the school secretary, she would have to sell her co-op. So take a moment and think, what big historical event happened in 1987, specifically October 1987. So she was going to sell her co-op, pay off any debts here in Brooklyn, and we could move out west, right? Well, in October of 1987, there was Black Monday, the real estate crash of 1987. Prices of houses got so inflated that people stopped buying. And pay attention to this because it's applicable to current times. People stopped buying real estate for investment. And they started investing in government bonds instead. I just taught my 8th graders what bonds are because we did a unit on stocks. We're almost finished. And so we were talking about bonds. What's the difference? Well, the government bonds were stable, right? They're backed by the government. Most likely you're not going to lose your money, and it would go up a little bit. And people were like, well, we're going to invest since we can't afford houses anymore. This affected interest rates, and I don't understand it all. You can look up real estate crash of 1987 if you're interested, but it does have parallels to what's going on with the housing market right now, today. That's why a lot of people think it's going to crash again soon. So what happened was, because everyone stopped buying houses because they were artificially too expensive, they were inflated, the prices went down. I think I'm right. If you're an economist or you study real estate and I'm missing something, tell us in the comments. But my mom found that she can't sell her co-op. So the prices crashed, and if she sold for the new lower price, she would be what's called underwater, meaning the amount that she would pay, that she would get paid for the house would be less than her existing bills, mortgage, expenses, and everything. So she could actually lose money by selling it at the lower price, and no one's going to buy it at the price that she's listing it. So she would actually have to pay several $1,000s. She would have to go negative to get rid of the house. So she couldn't sell it. So she had it on the market for months and months and months, and it wouldn't sell. And no real estate was selling in 1987, end of 87 and into 88. So we couldn't leave to go to Oregon. Ultimately, the school waited for a while, but they couldn't wait forever. And they had to fill that position. So the dream of us moving out, it disappeared. And guess what? I now had to stay at John Jay, where I have burnt bridges, been disrespectful to a couple of teachers. I'm embarrassed to say I was way behind in credit. So I'd failed math 2 or 3 times, cutting classes and stuff. So at that point, I was doomed. I would have graduated late if I stayed, to stay an extra half a year, maybe a full year, been a super senior for real. And I had done it to myself. This is the story, you can learn from my mistake. I did it to myself, and I tell my students now, don't get cocky. Don't burn bridges. Don't think that because your family is planning to move, because lots of families move and you change schools, right? And then you think it's not going to come with me. So you burn bridges because you don't like a teacher or something. Don't do that. And don't stop doing all of your work all of a sudden. And don't think you can blow off the second half of 8th grade. I tell my kids, my students, because I teach middle school, because you already got your high school acceptance letter, for example. They used to get high school acceptance in the middle of the year. So then it's like, I already get into high school, whatever. And then they don't really want to do a lot of work last couple of quarters. But now I think this year, because of the delays and COVID and a bunch of other stuff, maybe new mayor, new DOE. So now they're not getting their results until after this whole 8th grade year. So they got to keep getting good grades right up to the end of 8th grade, or it might affect their high school. But anyway, don't burn bridges, because things can change. If there's one thing that the pandemic taught us all, it's that anything can happen. Don't take anything for granted. Even if you're up in life, this will help you later. If you're up, if you're ahead, let's say financially, or you're doing great, you got a promotion at the job, you're the boss, or you have a company and it's making lots of money, anything can happen. You want to keep going forward. You want to keep pushing. Don't stand still, because you could lose it all tomorrow and then you'll be behind. You feel up? Great. Invest, plan for the future, hold on to that. Each year, you got to try to do better than you did last year. Then you can survive a setback, if something does, get in the way, or if there is a market crash, or if you lose your job, or if your plans to move change, if there's a pandemic, if there's a shutdown, you could have just opened a restaurant 3 months before the shutdown, and we're doing great. And you're like, this is it. I got it made. I got a business. I got all these employees. I'm making money. Boom, pandemic. Now you got to struggle for a year and a half and go through that, right? So anyway, one day, this was the last straw. I had an issue with my math teacher, like I told you. Shout out to B-Box Radio. Shout out to All Mental. I told this story on that show in more detail, but I'm going to give you the short version. This math teacher wasn't able to help me with a math problem. So my dad went up to the school to get help from the teacher, at the time, the chair of the department. And then we went to the assistant principal when the chair couldn't help us and the teacher couldn't help us. Not one person in the school could explain how to do the new math, right? And it was in a textbook. And they kept suggesting to me that I cheat and just look up the answer, because the school didn't really understand the math either. And that's when I said, you know what? I think I'm done here. Like, I could be working full time making money instead of wasting my time here not really learning much. But what do I need the diploma for? It's a piece of paper. If I didn't learn anything, and then it's not really worth anything, right? So why bother? Now, they offered me to graduate early. They were like, we will reduce the requirements of credits, because they didn't want me to drop out. When I told them when I turned 16, I'm dropping out because that's the legal age you can do it, they were like, no, don't drop out. You failed a few classes, but you can retake those. We'll drop a half a year of your gym requirements, phys ed. We'll give you some extra credit here, and you'll graduate. Don't worry, you'll graduate early. Not only won't I graduate late, they would have me graduate early, right? But I was like, I can't do that. See, at the time, I hated being fake. I was an MC. Hip hop was about being real, right? So I wouldn't just go through the motions. So I decided to sign myself out shortly after my 16th birthday, which is the age you can legally drop out of school. So that's it. I dropped out. I worked for a year making minimum wage. Like I said, listen to the B-Box Radio interview. But once I figured I wasn't going to be able to live off minimum wage, and I couldn't get much better jobs without a high school diploma and maybe even some college, I realized I really need to take my GED, pass, and try to go to college. At the time, I was doing rap shows. I was entering battles. I was trying to shop demos to major labels. But I knew that was a long shot. A lot of real talented musicians of every genre of music never get, quote, signed. And then a lot of them do get signed. And some of my friends this happened to. They got signed to a major label. And then there's a shift at the label. One company buys another, they merge, and then the artist gets dropped, or their project gets shelved because of marketing of another artist who's bigger than you, and you're the new guy. And then, your album never comes out and your career gets held back. It's a common story. You can read articles about that, in the music magazines all the time. So, and then sometimes people would go bankrupt. So I wasn't gassed that I was going to get signed and become a millionaire rapper. And this was, keep in mind, I think this was before Eminem or even Vanilla Ice came out and had commercial success, but maybe Vanilla Ice came out. I don't know. But it was before Eminem, and there weren't a lot of white kids making it in hip hop either. So I wasn't doing it thinking that. I was doing it because I loved it. And who knows, maybe I'll make a song, people will like it, but I just knew that I was good at it. I was winning battles. I like to perform. We're going to shop our demos just in case, you can't rule it out. but I wasn't relying on that. I knew I might not be that one in a million that supports themselves doing music. Plus, I had a lot of other interests and goals. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be working with technology. I was into sports. I was doing martial arts. I was doing a little acting. I didn't know what I wanted to do as a career yet, but I knew it wasn't working in a mailing company or working for UPS. Those are two jobs I held as a teen before becoming a teacher. More on that later. I'm going to do an episode all about the various jobs that I've had over my lifetime. So look for that on the channel. Take a moment to smash that like button. And if you just joined us, subscribe, ring the notifications, because I have a lot more interesting stories planned for the future. But in the song, I say, precision is just one of my features. I'm the high school dropout that became the teacher. But I don't think of myself as a dropout. Dropping out of school at 16 is something I did. It's not who I am or what I am, but I phrased it that way for more impact so the line would really hit. Like, wait a minute, how are you in a profession where you not only need a diploma, you need multiple college degrees to attain? In New York, you got to get your bachelor's degrees, 4-year degree, and then you have to get a master's degree on top of that, 2-year degree. So if you didn't know that, respect your teachers because they all have college degrees. In some states, just need the bachelor's, but it's a lot of college that you need, and you have to get those degrees in education. Can't just major in some random thing you like. You have to study education. Sometimes you have to also study special education. So anyway, at that point, to change your perception for people who may be going through struggles with schools' perceptions, make people think of it a different way. And to disrupt the narrative that when you fail at something, your life is over, you're a loser, and you'll continue to fail for the rest of your life. That was the point. I had to change the fact that I had dropped out of school. I had to put that in the past. So I said to myself, how can I get rid of that? How can I take that stigma off of my resume? When you go to apply for a job, they say, what was the last school you attended and when did you graduate? Very bad question if you dropped out of school, even if you took a GED. So I was going to have to if I put John Jay, then I wouldn't be able to put anything for year of graduation. If I wrote GED, sometimes that could be a stigma too. And I know they call it the task test now, but it was called GED back then. Most people still informally refer to it as such, So I figured I'm going to have to get into college, and I want to study a bunch of things anyway. Maybe I'll study acting, I'll study writing, maybe I'll study music in college on a college level because I already was a musician. And so I said, I got to go to college. And once I figure out what my major is going to be, I didn't know that I was going to become an education major and become a teacher. I said, I'm going to major in something. And once I get a degree, when I apply for a position, nobody's going to ask me for my high school information. The question on the applications are, what was the last school you attended? And what was your year of graduation? And sometimes they want a transcript in some professions, not all. So if I can say Brooklyn College and I graduated 1990, whatever, then that's it. No one's going to ask me about my GED and all that. So that's what I decided to do. And I worked for a year. I saw I wasn't making the right amount of money, and that, unless I got lucky and got a record deal, I was going to live a pretty abysmal life if I didn't get some kind of higher education, higher learning, and, develop a career where I could really support myself. So that's what I did. And I was lucky enough that before dropping out of school, I had already taken the SAT one time. You usually get to take it twice, but I took it the first time and then I was dropped out. And because my SAT was high, it wasn't super high, but it was higher than the minimum mandatory requirement to get into Brooklyn College. And my score on the GED was just high enough to also, they would allow it for Brooklyn College. So thank goodness, because if I had done a little more poorly on either of those tests, I might have had a GED, but I don't know if I would have been able to go to college. But there's other things you can do. There's trade schools, there's opening up a business, there's becoming a performer. There's a lot of different things. I could have just taught music lessons like my parents do. My parents, they have college too, but they didn't use their degrees. They basically teach music in the house, Slope Music in Park Slope. So people come over and they're master musicians and they teach you how to play an instrument. They teach you jazz, classical, pop, whatever you want to learn. So I always had the option to do that, and I actually supported myself part-time by teaching music lessons before I went to college, and then, while I was in college, that was how I made some extra money. So I always could have relied on that and just set up shop and a family business, been a music teacher, slope music. But the moral of this story is in life, sometimes we stumble and fall, sometimes we fail. It's about how well you're able to recover, to get up, to continue. This is true in fighting, in boxing, in competitive sports. And it's true in life. Also, sometimes the answer to your problem is not to go through, straight through. Sometimes you got to go around. You have an obstacle, you keep smashing into it. Sometimes this is the solution. So the obstacle I had is I wasn't a great student, and I dug myself into a hole, and I caused myself to have to drop out of school basically, or go for an extra year or two. And I guess my way of getting through that was to go around it, to drop out, get some work experience, some life experience. I really learned a lot that year working, because I was seeing what the value of work, like I did X amount of hours and I got this much money, and it wasn't a lot. It was really pitiful. So it showed me the value of a career. What I knew, what I could get paid if I had a college degree and I had a career. And eventually, I went to school and I tried different majors, and eventually I decided I wanted to be a teacher and, go into that profession, because there were times when I had great teachers in my life, and there were teachers that weren't so great. And there were schools that were amazing, and there were not so great schools that I transferred out of, even in elementary school. So I had kind of a customer's appreciation, the consumer's experience of public education. And then I went to college and I majored in education. So I had the book learning, I studied psychology and all that. And before becoming a teacher, while I was getting my degree, I worked in preschools, I worked in day camps, I did summer camps. And I was teaching music lessons. So I had a little experience working with kids and teaching, for a few years. So, I figured that was a good career for me. And if anything, I could try to become the best teacher that I was able to, and make a difference in someone else's life, and hopefully, be that good teacher for someone else. Now, sometimes quitting means you're changing your direction in life. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck now and your life is over. Would I suggest people drop out of school? No, because there's so much opportunity, so much you can gain and leverage to achieve your dreams and goals. There's relationships that you develop in school that can help shape and mold you, help prepare you for the next chapter. And learning how to do all that work and meet deadlines and struggle with lots of different subjects, many of which you're not interested in and are not really going to be useful to you later in life. But going through that process teaches you how to accomplish something challenging and difficult, how to develop your perseverance, how to learn something. Let's say you're struggling to learn from the teacher or the textbook. Nowadays, you have the internet. So you have YouTube, you have Google, you have people you can go to for answers. There's tutorials online. So, you can read and teach yourself the part that you're stuck on. There's a lot more opportunity. So I'm not saying that you should drop out of school, but sometimes dropping out for some people could be necessary. If Kanye West didn't drop out of college, we wouldn't have had all his albums, right? The College Dropout and all that, late registration. Now, for some, dropping out can be a monumental mistake. It could hurt you in your life. However, even if it is, you can still recover from that. You can get a GED or find another path that works for you. I also went on interviews for several alternative high schools to consider switching to an alternative high school. When you're struggling in school for different reasons, there's these schools that are specialized, that are made to help students that maybe have social emotional issues, maybe have ADHD, maybe they had some kind of injury that took them out of school, or they have some kind of ailment, or there's all different reasons, right? Why they couldn't make it in a traditional school. And sometimes they do really well in these alternate high schools. So if you're struggling and you're thinking, I'm going to fail out of school, maybe I should drop out. Before you do that, consider looking at all the alternate high schools, because some of them are really awesome. There's schools that you go to where you get credits for your academic subjects by recording songs in a music studio. They didn't have that when I was growing up, but they do now. There's schools that are entrepreneurial, You have to create businesses, real businesses, and make money, and you get credit for that. There's schools where you go to do apprenticeships. Let's say you're a writer, you go and work at a magazine or newspaper. If you want to get into footwear design, you go work at Nike. You do an apprenticeship. You get high school credit for that. That counts for your social studies and your math and things like that. So there's a lot of alternatives to dropping out. But if you do need to get a GED or do something another way, you can always find success in life. Life is just a puzzle, like the Rubik's Cube. You can solve it intuitively, or you can use algorithms. You can find a cheat code. You can learn a little piece of information along the way that helps you get to the ultimate solution. You break it down into smaller steps. You find the algorithm, you apply it, and you can get through whatever your life's hardship or situation is. Don't give up. What's important is whatever you do, think about your future. Plan for tomorrow. Don't be random. Don't just say, whatever happens, whatever, get depressed and just give up, because then you're done. Right? Now you're not progressing. You need to always be figuring out, how am I going to win? How am I going to achieve what I want to achieve no matter what? Use your willpower for that. We all deserve happiness and success. Give yourself that chance. Decide what's important to you in your life at that moment. It can change as you go along, but find something that motivates you in the moment to continue on. And trust me, you'll figure it out along the way. Just keep moving forwards. And remember, if you're standing still, you're kind of moving backwards because the world's passing you by. It's like inflation. If your money's just standing there, then it's going backwards because everything else is getting more expensive and your money is staying the same value. So you got to invest it. It's the same thing with your education. You're investing in you. You're making yourself more valuable. And education doesn't just mean school. You could learn a craft. You could learn shoe repair. You could learn plumbing. You could learn electrical work. You could learn how to put up sheetrock. You could do construction. A lot of my friends who dropped out of school became construction workers. And then later, they realized they can make more money in construction if they had a college degree. So they went back and got their GED, and then they went to college. So they were working minimum wage construction, and then they got their high school GED, and then they got a degree in something related to construction. I don't know what that is, engineering, architecture, things like that. And then they became the foreman, and then they were the boss. They were making big money and bought a nice house. And yeah, their life ended up great too. So there's many paths. There's not only one path. Okay. Thank you for listening to my story. If you haven't heard the whole song, please go check out Teacher featuring Bamboo. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Amazon, Apple Music, Tidal. You can get it with a pre-order of the full project called Along the Way 777. And I'm going to do an episode which explains what the 3 7s are and the concept of the whole Along the Way album. But right now I'm focusing on the single. But you can pre-order and get the single and the instrumental and the acapella. If you're a DJ or a producer, you want to do a remix, you can get those. If you want to freestyle over the beat, you can get the instrumental. And a lot of other extras on my Bandcamp page. The NFT for the song Teacher is on the way, so look out for that. Information will be in the description below. Of course, the official music video is right here on YouTube on this channel. You can see it if you're watching this on Facebook right now. Go jump over to YouTube. Please leave me a like and a comment on YouTube. If you're commenting on Facebook, that's cool. I can see it, but it's not going to post to the video. So please, if you want to give me some support, if you want to ask a question, if you want to tell me part of your story, go to the YouTube channel and put that in the comments there. And of course, that's on you can get the project Along the Way 77 with a lot of extras on my Bandcamp page. And I think I'll show you. Did it upload? I tried to upload this temporary artwork that I made. Actually, my partner in MCMI, LR Blitzkrieg, he made a, a moving GIF. Let me see if I can access it in StreamYard right now. Yeah, I'm going to play this really quick. It's just a cute little animation that he did. I hope this is the right one. Check it out. Yeah, that's all. So it's got the 3 7s. I don't know if you caught that. 1 7, 2 7, 3 7s along the way. GMS along the way. Yeah. So that's the full project. I'm working on some more artwork too. There's going to be a lot of NFTs and cover arts and things for that project. But Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow my Instagram. Follow me on Facebook, wherever you are. But subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now you can subscribe for more of GMS, a.k.a. Mr. Cyber Sky, speaking my truth, bringing you along with me on the journey as I create and release this album, giving you stories and insights along the way. But subscribe and hit the like button. And if you haven't left a comment underneath the video, when the video is done, I know you guys might be chatting right now, but leave a comment under the video to spark the algorithm and share it with friends. All right. And you can subscribe at the MCMI Report channel, and you can also subscribe at the Cyber Sky Videos channel. Let me throw up some information for you guys if you want to. Where are we? Yeah, boom, boom. There's the websites. You can check out more about my bio. You can look at the press photos. You can see some other interesting music from other artists like Substantial, Nems, different people that have music out on the MCMI Report website. Shout out to my partners, LR Blitzkrieg, Keith Wildchild. Shout out to Cords Cadero, Mr. Mech. Shout out to the Marksman. And on the MCMI Report YouTube channel, you can check out all our podcasts. And we also have lots of podcasts on the Cyber Sky Videos channel. So wherever you follow us, whether it's MCMI Report and Hip Hop We Trust, or Welcome to the Cyber Sky, Let's Learn Something at Cyber Sky Videos, please do. And we appreciate you. I appreciate you. This is Along the Way with GMS. And I'll be trying to do this a little more regularly. But peace and love to everyone who supported this project all the way so far, Along the Way 777. And because quite a few people have already pre-ordered the project, and there's only the single in there right now. Next month, I'll be dropping the second single. It's featuring an artist named Cords Cordero singing the chorus. Shout out to Bamboo, who's on the Teacher single. His reggae hook is fire. And shout out to Cords Cadell. I think you're really going to like what he does on the next record called Freedom. How We Get. A video for that is on the way as well. But yeah, thanks for supporting, whether you're from Park Slope, whether you know me from Slope Music, Stairs Academy, Cyber Sky Videos, MCMI Report, Hydra, The Plague, any school I've ever worked at, PS29, PS39, PS287, PS276, Arts and Letters 305 United. I appreciate you. So now I want to ask you a question. What's your story? Tell me a little about the struggles that you may have had in school growing up. Who was your favorite teacher? Who was the worst teacher you had? What were some of your greatest friendships that you developed in school? What are your best school memories? Give them to us in the comments. And I always reply to the comments. So let's keep the discussion going. You know what I'm saying? That's all for tonight. I really appreciate you guys. Stay healthy, my friends. And as always, stay blessed.